Hi everybody, welcome back to the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel and welcome to our very first Christmas special. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring. Apart from me, Matthew Morgan, here on the Eastfield Gunroom channel, bringing you a shotgun review. So there's my Christmas poem out of the way. I've got my gold and green polo shirt on so I resemble a great big piece of tinsel, and I've already had 6 mince pies. But apparently that's not festive enough according to Max the videographer. Well, I don't care what Max thinks because he's a massive... Yes, this is still the Eastfield Gunroom YouTube channel, and it's very much the Christmas special. So the gun I've chosen to model with this ridiculous outfit is one of my absolute favourites. It's a gun we haven't looked at on the channel, although I have made various references to it. A particular favourite of mine, a particular favourite with a lot of my friends and customers overseas. Today we are going to look at the incredibly good Miroku MK38. So before we start today's review, a couple of weeks ago, we gave you a pop quiz for the Remington video, which was what year was the Remington 1100 launched? If you answered the question, stay tuned to the end of this video and we might give you a shout out. I can't give you a mince pie, like I said, all because I've eaten them all. So on with the review. The Miroku MK38 is a gun I've certainly made reference to previously on the channel, but we've never actually looked at one. So I thought, as a Christmas special video, let's get what I believe, although it's mass produced, to be a very, very special gun. Now the MK38, obviously manufactured by Miroku in Japan, it replaced the extremely successful and very popular 3800 series back in 1995. And the main difference at the time was to do with the construction of the barrels. So what they did is they went from the 3800, which was chopper lump, over to the MK38, MK60, MK70, all those kind of guns at the time. Which are essentially sleeve, where they get the tubes and they sleeve them into the block. Now, when it's first introduced, you could buy it as a fixed choke sporter, which was 1/4 3/4 choke, and also you could buy it as a trap version, so 3/4 full, 30 and 32 inch. And initially they did it in a grade 1, so you've got very basic grade engraving, basic wood. Then they introduced a grade 3, which is kind of in the middle, which has got a nice piece of foliate engraving, and then onto the grade 5, which is what we've got here, which is very highly figured American walnut, very nicely finished, hand finished, deep cut scroll work. And if you said to me, what would you buy if you had to buy one gun to go and shoot clays with, then I think I would be hard pushed to better one of these. So the particular gun we're going to look at today is a brand new, off the peg pretty much, MK38 Sporter. So from the start, if you pick it up, you can see that it's got the famous deep body action like the Browning, because essentially what Miroku did all those years ago is they tried to copy the Browning, and now they've got to the point where they manufacture for Browning. So, it's a very, very successful idea. So deep body action. This one, like I said, is a grade 5. So you've got really, really nice engraving, which is actually hand finished. So even though it's done probably with a mixture of rolled on and maybe laser, there's certain parts of it that are hand picked by the artisans over in Japan. Now, let's not forget what these people are capable of. We've looked at the videos like the G13 President, like the G12, which are the hand engraved guns, the hand finished guns from the custom shop. What they do with these, though, is obviously because of the constraints of time and cost, is they pick out little bits just to make them feel that bit more special, and it's essentially put into what is a mass-produced gun. So this engraving, believe it or not, has not changed since they first launched this gun in 1995. It is the same kind of candy cane scroll, not dissimilar to sort of the old Nikko 5002 kind of style, although it was a much finer, tighter scroll. And it just works. You've got this kind of, I don't know what that kind of flower is, with the leaves and the scroll sort of exploding out of it like a bouquet, It's not over the top. They have also done these guns with gold. They did a grade 6 limited edition, which was a bit like a Browning Midas, but not everyone likes gold. These are still very, very sleek, very presentable, very desirable without going completely over the top. So as we've looked at with previous models before, we've got engraved barrel wings. Now, what's interesting with this Miroku is it hasn't actually got engine-turned barrel sides or engine-turned ejectors, which you do get with the modern Brownings. And what has always been very apparent to me in all my years around shotguns is that Miroku in the UK is marketed as a poorer cousin to Browning. So what you won't get is the classic example is to my left-hand side here. Miroku's, the majority of them come in a cardboard box. Browning, you will get a case. Miroku, you might have less chokes historically. And I think with something like this, by putting the engine turning on the Browning, it's trying to promote them as this kind of higher level gun, where in reality, they are virtually identical. And it is, in my eyes, just down to politics. For the same reason, and I think we touched on this in a previous video, is when you look at the woodwork, historically, Browning will use European woodwork on most of their guns, Turkish, etc., like the XS Pro, whereas on the Miroku's, it always tends to be American walnut, certainly on the grade 3 and the grade 5 guns. This one's a 32-inch, 10mm parallel sporting rib with a tram line, with a centre bead, and I've said this before, very little has changed in this gun in the last 30, 40 years, because the design of it and the whole platform in terms of, you know, the dependability, the durability, which I bang on about, but you will meet people regularly that have got Miroku's that are 50 years old. Yes, they've had the odd firing pin, and occasionally you might get a little screw in the ejector shear off, but they just keep going. They are such a workhorse. So 18.7 bored barrels, so Invector Plus chokes. Now, when the MK38 was first introduced as a sport, it was only available in fixed choke, quarter, three-quarter choke. And then I believe in about 2003, Browning / Miroku enlisted the help of Nigel Teague from Teague Precision Chokes here in the UK. And they came up with the idea of factory multi-choke in the gun and him supplying the extended chokes like you can see in this gun now and calling it a Teague Sporter. From a marketing point of view, it was brilliant because Teague at the time, very, very little competition, if any, in the UK in terms of quality, aftermarket and replacement chokes. Miroku, huge brand in the sporting world of clay shooting, and that amalgamation, you know, like I say, 2003, 20 years ago, and they're still knocking guns out with exactly the same specification. So that tells you how well a match that was. So 18.7 bore. Interestingly enough, again, if you look at Browning, you will have ventilated barrels. On Miroku's, you don't get them. The only gun I can recall from Miroku with ventilated barrels is the 9000. We've done a video, check it out. And I'm not entirely sure why this is, but for the UK market, on the MK38, we don't get ventilated barrels. Ventilated ribs, yes. Ventilated barrels, no. As standard, these come with 5 chokes. So you get the 3 extended Teagues, and you get flush, full and skeet. I've no idea why you get flush, full and skeet, because you'd never use them together, but that has always been a bit of a conundrum for me when talking about MK38s. This particular gun weighs 8 pounds 7 ounces. And what's really interesting and something which baffled me and shocked me the first time I learned it is that these guns vary quite a lot in weight. And when I say these guns, I mean the specific grade 5 Sporter. And that is down to the fact of the density of this American walnut, because it can change the weight of a gun by as much as 5, 6, 7, or even 10 ounces, which is incredible. I can remember previously a customer purchasing one of these, and as he had a choice of a selection of them, and there was 10-ounce variation between the lightest and the heaviest, which is absolutely crazy. So what that does for the balance with 8 pounds 6 ounces. Now, I would say historically these are a little bit barrel heavy, but that one, out the box with the Teagues in, I would say is very, very good. If you want one of these guns, it's very important you go out and you pick them up, because the difference is remarkable. And one thing I would say is, if you want a gun that feels good and you just want to shoot it and you don't care what it looks like, the grade 1s tend to be more consistent because of the type of wood that they use during the manufacturing process. So we talked about the barrels, we talked about the engraving. As you would expect, you've got a nicely engraved top lever, which I think that's a chrysanthemum again, which we know from previous videos is a mark of quality in terms of Japanese heritage. Underneath, nicely engraved again. Trigger guards nicely engraved, and the finish is very, very similar to the Ultra XS, kind of this satin brushed finish, not glossy, not over the top. Adjustable trigger. So if you look at something like a Browning XS, you get a whole box full of bits, you get different triggers, etc. Again, because Miroku is deemed this kind of poorer cousin to Browning, you only get one trigger. get a cardboard box. Another point of that is there's very little merchandise you can buy. You will very rarely go out, certainly in the UK, and you will see someone plastered head to toe Miroku merchandise because you just can't get it. Australia, they have a whole plethora of stuff they can buy: gun slips, skeet vests, caps, dog bowls, pen knives. In the UK, we're not so lucky. Steel shot proof, as you would expect, and 3-inch chambers. Like I said, from a crossover gun point of view, a lot of people do like these for shooting tall pheasants because they've got that bit of weight in it. They are smooth to shoot. They're very forgiving. There's not a lot of cast on them. Again, if you're a taller guy like myself, we move on to the wood now. You get a 15-inch stock as standard. And, you know, you can put something on the back, make it a little bit longer without it making it look like a dog's dinner. Because if you look at some of the Italian manufacturers, the stocks do come shorter. And what that means is if you then need to build it up, not only do you affect the balance, but you also massively affect the aesthetics of a gun. And why buy a grade 5 and then with back end of a Michelin tire on the end of it? As standard, grade 5 American walnut. Now, I know what people will be looking at the screen saying, grade 5 American walnut cracks. Historically, there have been issues with American walnut, and that is due to the fact that the grain is very close. Obviously, these stocks are kiln dried, so there's still moisture on when you put it on the gun. And I don't want to scare people because although I have seen some broken ones, it is a very, very small number based on the amount that I actually know are out there and I have actually supplied. What's interesting is over the last few years is the actual head of the stocks that Miroku are choosing to put on these guns has got a little bit plainer. If you get a gun that's maybe 10, 12 years old, you will see there's a lot more happening here. And that's where the danger is because, yes, we all want wood that looks fantastic from the head of the stock to the bottom of the toe, but in a lot of ways, that's not practical, particularly when putting big cartridge through it. So this is typical of what you would get. It's very sort of tiger stripe feel back, very nicely finished, kind of red in color, which again is typical of American walnut. You do tend to get that sort of redness coming out of it, an Alcanet style, nicely finished. Standard recoil pad, which although doesn't really reduce any recoil whatsoever, it is still a smooth shooting gun. Again, if you want to further the recoil absorption from this, just put a decent recoil pad on it, bit of weight in the stock, away you go. Double point checkering, which is the most elegant, I think. So on a gun like this, I think it's the best option all around. We've got hand carved drop points, teardrops, and the whole thing is actually hand checkered. Now, most manufacturers these days use laser checkering, Browning and Miroku, which is incredible when you look at the price point of the guns that they produce, right from the bottom to the top. Are very proud of the fact that they hand checker their guns. So that in essence is the gun. It is a Miroku, it's brilliant, it looks great, it will last a lifetime. We'll just move on to the bits and bobs that you get with it. So yes, it is a crappy cardboard box, and that is exactly what you get. And I bang on about the politics thing, but it's true. It is absolutely true. You go to other countries throughout the world. Now what's interesting as well, while I just unwrap this present, is that in Canada and the States, you can't really buy these new. They are very, very, very hard to obtain and to source. So should you wish to own one and you are watching in one of those countries, please get in touch and I will do my best to assist you. So these Miroku cardboard boxes, they've not changed for 30 years. The Miroku 9000 that we did a review on, I subsequently found another 9000, that was 1993. And the difference was the color had changed. It was claret and now it's gray. But what you're getting here is we talked about the cheek chokes. So you get 2 in the end of the gun, you get an additional 1, and you get the 2 flush ones. So there's your additional teague. If you've not heard of teague chokes, like I said, where have you been? They are absolutely superb. They throw extremely good patterns. They're ballistically excellent. They're made from the highest grade stainless steel. And then you get your little taper key to take it in and out with. And then there's your flush chokes. Interestingly enough, if we were to put the flush chokes in this particular gun at 8 pounds 7 ounces, it'd probably knock a couple of ounces out and it would probably bring the gun pretty much back straight over the hinge pin. Well, like I said previously, we would have to add a bit of weight to the stock to do that. So even though the gun hasn't got, you know, an adjustable coma or barrel weight system, there are things you can do just to tweak and fine tune the gun to your requirements. Allen key for adjusting the trigger, auto safety kit, which you get as standard with Brownings and Miroku, should you want to convert the gun to auto safety. All Sporters as standard come as manual, as do the game guns now. And then you get your little book of words. Now, warranty in the UK on a Miroku, this is a real plus point for me for Miroku. If you buy a Miroku in the UK, you will get a 3-year warranty on the woodwork. So we've just talked about the potential horror stories of the American Grade 5 walnut. They are one of the only, if not the only manufacturer that will warranty woodwork for a period of 3 years. Everybody else, 12 months at a push. So that again is testament to the fact that they are extremely proud of the product and that they want people to use it and own it without any issues, without any hiccups whatsoever. To finish off, we have got the all-important proof certificate, which we talked about before, and the inspection certificate, just to show that it's gone through an inspection process and of course it's been proofed in Belgium prior to be shipped into the UK. Now, that kind of concludes all the bits and pieces with the gun. But what I've got to say is if you've not shot an MK38, you have got to go and shoot one. We did the video on the Silver Pigeon versus the 525. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. And I made reference to the fact that the 525 was a bit light and a bit kicky. If you want to shoot clays, despite the fact that in their basic form, the MK38 is a more expensive gun than the 525, the MK38 is hands down a better gun for shooting sporting clays. I've always believed that, and I will always stand by that in terms of an opinion. So if you are looking at starting out shooting, and a lot of people look at the 525, the Silver Pigeon, the MK38, for me, out of those three, it would be an MK38 every single time. So that concludes today's review, which is the MK38 Grade 5 32-inch Sporter 2022 version. There's one final thing for me to do. Don't worry, it's not another costume change. It's not another Christmas poem. It is to look at the list of names that successfully commented on the Remington video to say that the Remington 1100 was launched in 1963. So using my ALF powers, I'm just going to reel through them from my little Christmas book. So give me a second. In no particular order, the people that successfully commented that the Remington 1100 was launched in 1963 are as follows.
Chris Roberts, Simon Caldicott, Kiwi Hunting, Tad Smith, at DC6869, David Hughley, Darren Morris, at Cum Troy, Barry Tillotson, at Baseman 1997, at TMS Shooting, Michael P, John Woods, the Collyman 7674, Richard Woods, Cathal Shaw, Merv 690 and Ross Forbes.
Thank you everybody for taking part in that. It was just a bit of fun. I can't send you a mince pie because I've eaten all of them. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to comment below. Don't forget to check out the website. You might want to spend your Christmas money on there. Do get in touch with anything you've got shotgun related. On behalf of myself and all the team at the Eastfield Gunroom, we wish you all a very Merry Christmas and we'll see you soon.